This video is sponsored by Noom. Riding shotgun in your friend's car, you try to catch up on some emails and texts before arriving at the restaurant when it happens. You're gripped in a wave of nausea, barely keeping it in. You grasp around, desperate for a plastic bag or anything else. But it's over. You feel it coming. Your mouth is full of saliva. It's an ailment that's all too familiar to many of us. Motion sickness. But how does motion sickness work? Is there anything we can do to help feel less like chundering every time we're in a vehicle? And could virtual reality be the solution that so many of us have been looking for? Let's get down to motion business. Let's get into it. After spending 2 long years finally getting everything set up on his boat, Dudley Jackson was excited for his new future on the waves. He quit his job, sold his house, packed up his family, including the dog, and hopped onto the beautiful sailboat. Once he left the relatively calm waters of the New Zealand coastline, however, things turned sour. Or should I say, chunky, because he was seasick. To learn that he had committed fully to a new way of life that was completely inaccessible to him crushed Jackson, not to mention his whole family and dog. He told NewsHub, "That put an end to that. I could never go around the world or the oceans." So he begrudgingly returned to the land-loving life and got a job in IT as an engineer, and managed to sate his appetite for the open waves, running a sales school in his off time. But then, about a decade later, his son showed him a virtual reality game. Upon putting on the headset, he found himself descending back into a pit of nausea and dizziness, exactly like when he was on his sailboat. He said, "When my son showed me a race car game, I got sick within minutes." This gave him an idea. If VR could give him seasickness in a matter of minutes, could it also reverse it just as quickly? Jackson thought to himself, "I bet the designers have never tried it on a boat." I thought, what would happen? That was his light bulb moment. But could VR tech actually improve motion sickness symptoms? And how does motion sickness work in the first place? To start, it's good to know what motion sickness is. Motion sickness, car sickness, and seasickness are all the same things. They occur when your brain can't keep track of what your eyes, ears, and body are telling it. Anything with lots of motion, like a plane, roller coaster, or even a train, can give you motion sickness. That being said, even non-VR video games can give you motion sickness.
It's hunger management time.
Ooh, coffee-flavored nutrient bars. Thanks, Quiz. This was a great idea.
Oh, especially on a day like this. We've been talking about empty stomachs all day. Having little routines like this has been really helpful. I'm even keeping track of them with today's sponsor, Noom. Noom is a digital health platform that utilizes a psychology-based curriculum to help users break down their health habits, achieve fitness goals, and track their progress.
You know, I probably could afford to make some changes for the sake of my health, but I don't think I'd be able to give up certain habits.
That's the neat part, you don't. Noom is all about supporting the lifestyle you already have without sacrificing the things you enjoy. It just encourages you to balance your health through daily trackers, lesson plans, community, and science.
Oh, yay, science!
Noom helped me understand my brain and the patterns behind my habits, like being completely engrossed in research leading to grazing on treats, and how I would justify eating a huge strawberry sundae just because I went on a jog earlier. But understanding these behavior chains help you break those bad habits and help you build healthier ones without compromise. Plus, they have an incredible support network for their users. Shout out to my coach and group chat for keeping my morale high and motivating me. If you're like me and think that a new year is a great time to start making some healthy new habits, then head on over to noom.com/brew to start your free Noom evaluation. It's a quick and easy way to set up your custom plan.
1 in 3 people will get motion sickness at some point in their lives. Women and young children are the most likely to experience it. Individuals with family histories of motion sickness, or who are pregnant, on birth control, or their period, in addition to those suffering from migraines or Parkinson's, are particularly vulnerable. Although anyone can get nauseated on bumpy car rides. Generally, Symptoms of motion sickness include cold sweats, dizziness, fatigue, headache, pale skin, rapid breathing, and an overproduction of saliva. Dr. Wilhelmus J. Oosterveld, MD, PhD, writes that motion sickness is a self-inflicted condition, the consequence of man's enormous capacity to modify his environment and to increase his natural powers of locomotion. In other words, it's a symptom of human technology outpacing our body's ability to adapt. The human body was never meant to go much faster than 5 miles per hour, a human's average land speed. So, blasting down a highway at 80 miles per hour singing along to Bohemian Rhapsody is, from a biological standpoint, like strapping jet engines to your 2002 Honda Civic. You can make it work, but you'll probably run into problems. FYI, the fastest human being is Usain Bolt, who managed to clock a top speed of 23 miles per hour, which is whack. So, what makes us feel ill when we move too quickly? It all comes down to how your inner ears maintain your balance and sense movement. Your brain figures this stuff out using what is referred to as your vestibular system, used to provide information to our brains on our movement, head placement, and spatial orientation. Basically, this system is how our brains tell which way is up, no matter what crazy yoga pretzel you've tied yourself up in. While the vestibular system is composed of a number of different organs and tracts, what's important for today's video is a system of interconnected tubes called the vestibular labyrinth. This labyrinth contains 3 semicircular canals and 2 small structures called otolith organs. They also contain receptors for vestibular sensations, aka feelings associated with body positioning and movement. The most prominent part of the vestibular labyrinth are the semicircular canals, which are 3 rings in your inner ear that are angled at 90-ish degrees to one another, each along a plane that the head rotates. In aeronautics terms, these planes are pitch, yaw, and roll. These canals determine what angle your head is at using a fluid called endolymph. When your head turns, the liquid endolymph moves through the various canals, brushing past a series of small hairs called stereocilia, which send signals from your vestibular system to your brain, informing it of how your head is rotated at any given moment. When you're standing up straight, then the endolymph settles at the bottom of each canal. If you carefully tilt your head without moving in any other direction, then the endolymph will move in only one of the canals. The vestibular system also works in conjunction with our ocular system, called the vestibulo-ocular system. We talk about that in more detail in our video on the optics of reading. The reason you get dizzy when you spin is because the momentum of the liquid endolymph continues its spin well after you've stopped rotating. At that point, your brain keeps receiving messages as if you're spinning, so your body compensates for the perceived motion. Motion sickness occurs when signals from your eyes and your vestibular system conflict. When you're reading in the car, your inner ear senses that you're moving, but your eyes focus on a stationary object. It's the same for seasickness. Your inner ears sense that you're constantly moving from the motion of the waves, but your eyes aren't moving at the same rate, confusing your brain, which gives you an upset stomach. Returning to our seasick sea captain, Dudley Jackson, and virtual reality, he believes that motion sickness is a serious problem facing VR tech today. He mentions that designers of games now have to put a motion sickness rating on each game. When you use a VR headset, you become sick the opposite way that a boat or car would make you. Your eyes see that you're moving, but your inner ear senses that you're standing or sitting still. Pretty much anytime your inner ear and eyes send conflicting information to the brain, you're gonna feel nauseated. Dudley believes that as the issue becomes more common, technology to mitigate it should follow. So, after leveraging his expertise in IT and his personal research into the science of seasickness, he decided that VR might offer him the solace he had been looking for. Initially, using just Google Cardboard and a smartphone app he developed himself, he experimented as the first human participant. Jackson told NewsHub, "I rowed out to my boat in the storm with my $5 cardboard and my iPhone. I put on my headset, and within a few minutes, I started to feel some relief. That's when I knew I was onto something. We've reversed the usage of the headset completely." But how did Dudley Jackson manage to fix motion sickness just using a phone and cardboard? how can you prevent it when it happens to you? When it comes to preventing motion sickness, the easiest way, like most illnesses, is to avoid the circumstances that make you sick. What's the safest way to go skiing? Don't ski. But if you can't completely avoid the situations that make you sick, like when you have to work or go to school, there are ways to mitigate your issues. If you travel by ship, try to book a cabin near the front by the water level to experience the least motion. If you choose to go by plane, a seat over the front edge of a wing will result in the least turbulence, and pointing the air vent toward your face will also help some. Though, if you find yourself on a train, pick a forward-facing seat near the front and ideally next to a window should prevent the worst symptoms. And lastly, if you're going by car, try your best to sit in the front passenger seat. Or just do what Grill does. Call shotgun, then sprint to the front seat as fast as humanly possible. We're not even going anywhere. Now, if you're unable to completely avoid the situations that make you sick, there are techniques that you can use in the moment to help you feel at least marginally better. The reason that the best place to sit in a car or etc. is the front is because one of the best ways to alleviate motion sickness is to focus on the horizon or a distant stationary object. This is also how Dudley Jackson's sea-level headset works. Clever. The headset provides relief to seasick passengers of boats and ships of all kinds by depositing you in a virtual environment under a tree overlooking a peaceful lake, giving you a strong focal point to alleviate symptoms. The headset works differently in everyone, with some users using it during short breaks periodically during their trip. Some use it throughout the entire journey, and some, like Jackson, only need it once before they're feeling ship-shape. In an email interview, when we asked Dudley Jackson if he's able to enjoy VR games now, he noted that, "You cannot cure seasickness or VR sickness permanently. Your body is always adjusting to what is currently presented to it. So if you stop playing VR games or get off a boat, your body normalizes again, back to square one. Until VR devices are more widely available, the best you can do is to keep your head as still as possible and avoid strong odors like greasy food or alcohol. It's also best not to smoke or be near smokers. Lastly, there are also supplements you can take to improve your symptoms. To the chagrin of mothers everywhere, ginger supplements can help. If you want something a bit more heavy-duty, over-the-counter antihistamines like Benadryl, nausea medication like Gravol or Dramamine, or prescription meds like scopolamine can provide more long-term benefits. Dudley Jackson noted that the sea-level headset was tested in trials without the use of pharmaceuticals, and has been installed on wind farm maintenance vessels whose crews cannot take medications for health and safety reasons. Jackson mentioned that the headset has also been tested on Antarctic expeditions, whose participants did take medications. So if you're not operating heavy machinery, using medication wouldn't hurt. Today, Dudley Jackson has patented his sea-level headset and licensed its use to cruise ships, tour vessels, and even private yachts across the world. In fact, the sea-level headset has even helped professional mariners overcoming crippling seasickness that would otherwise prevent them from being able to do their jobs safely. Just ask Captain Chris Coleman, who works as a marine pilot, guiding cargo ships into port. Now he can rest easy knowing that when the seas get choppy, a quick break inside the virtual world of sea level will keep symptoms at bay. Maybe one day all of us will have VR headsets and the ability to download the latest motion sickness app on the train when we feel like we're gonna chunder. But in the meantime, we'll just have to drink ginger ale and keep our eyes forward. But remember, if you mess up someone's car, always ask for motion forgiveness.